Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Books and Brews. Today I'm at Kickboxing, and I just want to share with you this episode about Greg Dillon. He was one man and his one lawyer took on the entire prosecution of the state of Connecticut. Their team, they even paid money to have a different legal team come in because they couldn't defend their position. So he is a David versus Goliath in this episode, so enjoy.
When I was contemplating the idea of a whistleblower lawsuit, at this point I know many attorneys, many prosecutors. If you had to choose an attorney for yourself and the issue was First Amendment right to free speech and employment law, who would you pick? The name that consistently came up was Karen Lee Torre. She was licensed in federal court and state court. You know, she had a reputation for being ornery, and that's what I wanted. The downside is, oftentimes we butt heads. It worked. She was a solo practitioner.
Yeah.
She had a paralegal, she had a secretary, and her. And then it was me, her client. And Mr. Bailey would be sitting there with 3 attorneys at his table and 3 in the gallery. His attorneys from the Attorney General's office initially, and then there was an FBI attorney, and then there was a U.S. Department of Justice attorney. That grew when eventually we won the case, and now he had private attorneys, and the Attorney General's office, and the FBI attorney, and the U.S. attorney.
I couldn't believe that the state paid for his private attorneys.
Yes, and he petitioned the Attorney General, Blumenthal. He felt that his case required the expertise that his office couldn't afford him, and they agreed to pay probably one of the most expensive and prestigious law firms in the state. And I'm still paying my attorney out of my pocket to try to keep the case going. There's a lot of prep that goes into a trial. And it made it even harder because she had paralegal and a secretary, like I mentioned. So it's all on her to be able to digest everything. And I try to make it as easy for her as possible. I had everything organized in binders, and I had a summary of everyone, what they should be testifying to and what knowledge they had, and the proof that I had of either they're lying or they're telling the truth. So I try to make her job as easy as possible because it was a complex litigation, and she needed to be able to ask intelligent questions to all the witnesses. It almost had to be seen to be believed that someone that was a career prosecutor was just so uncomfortable in a courtroom. He was out of his element from start to finish. His testimony was all over the place. He could not stay on track. He bumbled. He lost exhibits when they were given to him. It was a disaster from start to finish. He could have been a better witness for me. And his witness was the head of the FBI in New Haven, and he came across terribly because his attitude was condescending, arrogant. He really didn't take anything very seriously. He didn't think the allegations had any merit. He made a terrible impression on the jury. The result and the award backed my claim. That was Bailey's main witness. For the benefit of people that maybe have not been involved in the jury system or the court system, before litigation, almost everyone is deposed ahead of time. There's no judge, obviously there's no jury, and they can ask you all sorts of questions. And you don't really have an opportunity to refuse to answer any of the questions. You have your attorney with you, and she can object, and then they say, okay, objection noted, now answer the question. Now that question may not be allowed in a courtroom, but they have the latitude to ask you that in these depositions. And the attorney was trying to play up the fact that I didn't challenge the first time I discovered that an affidavit had been falsified. He was trying to embarrass me. Did you think it was serious? Yes, I thought it was serious. Did you recognize that it was potentially a crime? Yes, I did. But you did nothing. Correct. How many years had you been a police officer at that point? And you still didn't do anything when you recognized that a crime had been committed under your nose, and you said nothing to anyone. Try to explain to him, if you're going to make an allegation that serious, you have to be completely confident, and you should probably have more than one example, because it will be explained away as an oversight or a misunderstanding or whatever. And he kept trying to embarrass me by saying, but you had the evidence of that affidavit right in front of you, and you did nothing. Don't you think that it was serious enough to do something? And finally I turned to him and I said, when I had 7 examples of it, I said, I made a complaint and it took the FBI half a year to interview me. I said, so apparently it wasn't so serious that it would take the FBI a half a year to finally get around and inquiring about it. Unfortunately, there was no jury there to appreciate the irony of it, but I think it kind of rattled him enough to give up that avenue. So I think it was a full week, and then we caught the Thanksgiving week ended by that Wednesday. So it might have been 5, 6, 7, like an 8-day trial, maybe, or 7-day trial. I was disappointed. Career prosecutors when they did testify, I'll say it, lied under oath. They either feigned, I don't recall being there for that conversation, and I'm thinking, that wasn't all that long ago, and it was a pretty significant conversation. So that troubled me because when you're a prosecutor, you have a higher standard of conduct, and you're under oath. I mean, whether it's uncomfortable or not, whether it's awkward or not, you're really expected to tell the truth, and you should, and you didn't. So that was a big disappointment. But fortunately, Steve Kumnick and Steve Freddo, my two colleagues, they were able to testify truthfully under oath. Certainly helped my case. So that was the bright spot.
That was incredible. You could see how the state, hey there, this is Havoc, by the way. So you can see how the state had to pay attorneys to defend the prosecutor. And Greg still won the case because they were lying and he told the truth. So isn't that a beautiful message? So from myself to yourself, thanks for joining me on this journey. And join me for the next episode of Books and Brews.